Throughout human history, archaeologists have unearthed artifacts that challenge everything we thought we knew about our ancestors. These discoveries don't fit the conventional timeline, and they hint at civilizations far more advanced than we ever imagined. Today, we're diving into 15 of the most perplexing ancient mysteries that continue to baffle researchers and captivate minds across the globe. Each discovery is documented, verified, and still waiting for answers that may never come. Before we begin this journey into the unknown, make sure to subscribe for weekly explorations of history's greatest enigmas. Now, let's uncover what the past has been hiding from us. 1. The Antikythera mechanism, ancient Greece's impossible computer. In 1900, sponge divers off the coast of the Greek island Antikythera made a discovery that would rewrite our understanding of ancient technology. While searching for natural sponges in waters 150 feet deep, they stumbled upon the wreckage of a Roman cargo ship that had sunk around 70 BC. Among the pottery and statues lay a corroded lump of bronze that looked utterly unremarkable, yet it would prove to be one of archaeology's most significant finds. For decades, this artifact sat in storage at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, dismissed as fragments of a broken statue or simple navigational tool. It wasn't until the 1950s when British science historian Derek de Solla Price examined it closely that its true nature began to emerge. What he discovered defied all logic about ancient Greek capabilities. This wasn't just a tool. It was a sophisticated analog computer built over 2,000 years ago. The Antikythera mechanism consists of at least 37 meshing bronze gears housed in a wooden case about the size of a shoebox. These gears work together with astonishing precision to predict astronomical positions, eclipses, and even the dates of the Olympic Games decades in advance. The level of mechanical sophistication wouldn't be seen again in Europe until astronomical clocks appeared in medieval cathedrals 1,400 years later. Modern X-ray imaging has revealed inscriptions on the mechanism that serve as an instruction manual written in ancient Greek. These texts describe how to operate the device and interpret its various dials, which tracked the movements of the sun, moon, and all 5 planets known to the ancient world. The front dial showed the Egyptian calendar and the signs of the zodiac, while the rear dials displayed lunar cycles and predicted eclipses with remarkable accuracy. What makes this discovery so controversial is that nothing like it appears anywhere else in the archaeological record from this period. Greek texts mention mechanical devices called spheres that could model celestial movements, but historians had always assumed these descriptions were exaggerated or metaphorical. The Antikythera mechanism proves they were literal, yet we've found no other examples, no prototypes, and no evolutionary development leading to its creation. The precision of its gears suggests a level of metalworking that shouldn't have existed in ancient Greece. Each gear tooth is cut with mathematical precision. The gear ratios correspond exactly to astronomical cycles, and the entire mechanism operates with minimal friction or error. Creating such a device would require not just mechanical skill, but advanced mathematical knowledge, precise measuring tools, and possibly even magnification to work with such small components. Some researchers believe the mechanism may have been created by followers of the astronomer Hipparchus, or possibly designed in the workshops of Rhodes, known for its mechanical marvels. Others suggest it represents knowledge passed down from even earlier civilizations, perhaps survivors of some forgotten technological culture. The truth is, we simply don't know who built it, how they acquired such knowledge, or why this technology disappeared so completely from history. 2. The Baghdad Battery, electricity in ancient Mesopotamia. In 1938, German archaeologist Wilhelm König was cataloging artifacts in the National Museum of Iraq when he noticed something peculiar about a small clay jar from the Parthian period. The jar, dating to around 250 BC, contained a copper cylinder surrounding an iron rod, with both metals separated by an asphalt plug. Koenig immediately recognized the configuration as eerily similar to a modern electrical battery, and his subsequent experiments would spark one of archaeology's most heated debates. When Koenig created a replica and filled it with an acidic solution like vinegar or wine, it generated approximately 2 volts of electricity. This discovery suggested that ancient Mesopotamians might have understood and harnessed electrical power over 2,000 years before Alessandro Volta invented the modern battery in 1800. Multiple similar artifacts have been found throughout Iraq, all dating to the Parthian or Sassanid periods. Each follows the same basic design, a ceramic vessel containing copper and iron elements separated by an insulating material. The mainstream archaeological community remains divided on the battery interpretation. Skeptics argue that the jars could have been used for storing sacred scrolls, with the metal components serving as antimicrobial agents to preserve papyrus. Others suggest they might have been used in religious rituals or as containers for cosmetics, with the metals creating chemical reactions that produce specific colors or properties. However, several experiments have demonstrated that these devices can indeed generate electricity when filled with an electrolyte solution. Researchers have successfully used replicas to electroplate silver onto copper, a technique that would explain the remarkably thin and even gold plating found on some Mesopotamian artifacts. What makes the Baghdad battery particularly intriguing is that ancient texts from the region contain cryptic references to mysterious powers and divine lights. The Parthians were known for their advanced metallurgy and chemical knowledge, and they had access to all the materials needed to create functional batteries. They understood acids, worked extensively with metals, and had sophisticated knowledge of chemical reactions. If these artifacts were indeed batteries, it raises profound questions about ancient technological knowledge. Why did this technology disappear without spreading to other cultures? How did ancient people discover the principles of electricity without understanding atomic theory or electron flow? 3. The Piri Reis map. Impossible cartography. In 1929, workers renovating Istanbul's Topkapi Palace made an extraordinary discovery hidden among dusty Ottoman archives. They found a gazelle skin parchment bearing a map dated 1513, signed by the Turkish admiral Piri Reis. What should have been a simple nautical chart turned out to be one of cartography's greatest mysteries, showing coastlines that supposedly hadn't been discovered yet and geographical features that shouldn't have been known for centuries. The map depicts the western coasts of Europe and Africa with reasonable accuracy for its time. The eastern coast of South America is drawn with remarkable precision. Even more mysteriously, the map appears to show the coastline of Antarctica, a continent that wasn't officially discovered until 1820 and wasn't fully mapped until the 20th century. Piri Reis himself admitted that his map was a compilation, drawn from 20 older source maps including charts allegedly used by Christopher Columbus. He claimed some of his sources dated back to the time of Alexander the Great, suggesting an unbroken chain of cartographic knowledge stretching back over 2 millennia. The admiral noted that he had access to maps from the Imperial Library of Constantinople, many of which were destroyed when the city fell to the Ottomans in 1453. What makes the Piri Reis map particularly controversial is its apparent use of sophisticated mathematical projections. The map employs what appears to be an azimuthal equidistant projection centered near Cairo, a complex cartographic technique that wasn't formally developed until centuries later. This projection method requires advanced trigonometry and an understanding of the Earth's spherical nature, knowledge that historians believe wasn't widespread in 1513. The depiction of Antarctica has generated the most debate among researchers. The coastline shown on the map closely resembles the actual land beneath Antarctica's ice sheet, as revealed by modern seismic surveys. This has led some researchers to suggest the map might be based on sources from a time when Antarctica was ice-free, which according to conventional geology would be millions of years ago, long before human civilization. Professor Charles Hapgood of Keene State College spent years studying the map and concluded that it demonstrated knowledge from an advanced, prehistoric civilization. He argued that the map's accuracy could only be explained if ancient seafarers had methods of determining longitude, a problem that wouldn't be solved in the Western world until the invention of the marine chronometer in the 18th century. Skeptics counter that the supposed Antarctic coastline might actually represent the southern coast of South America bent out of shape due to the map's projection, or perhaps an imaginary southern continent that medieval cartographers often included on their maps. They point out that other features on the map are clearly wrong or fantastical, including mythical islands and misplaced geographical features. Yet certain details remain difficult to explain away entirely. The map shows the Andes mountain range, which wasn't explored by Europeans until the 1520s. It depicts rivers in South America that weren't mapped by outsiders until much later, and it shows islands in the Atlantic that match the positions of actual underwater mountains, features invisible from the surface. 4. The Nazca Lines. Messages to the sky, stretching across 450 square kilometers of Peru's coastal desert. The Nazca Lines represent one of archaeology's most visible yet incomprehensible mysteries. Created between 500 BC and 500 AD by the Nazca culture, these massive geoglyphs can only be fully appreciated from the air, raising the fundamental question of why an ancient civilization would create artwork invisible from ground level. The lines consist of hundreds of geometric patterns, straight lines that run for kilometers, and enormous drawings of animals, plants, and abstract figures. The largest figures span over 370 meters across, while some of the straight lines extend for more than 30 kilometers across the desert plateau. Creating these designs required removing the reddish surface stones to reveal the lighter sand beneath. A simple technique that produced artwork that has survived for 2 millennia. German mathematician Maria Reiche devoted her life to studying the lines, documenting over 1,000 distinct patterns and figures. She discovered that many lines align with astronomical events like solstices and equinoxes, suggesting they might have served as an enormous astronomical calendar. The precision of these alignments implies sophisticated knowledge of celestial mechanics and mathematical planning on a massive scale. The animal figures are particularly intriguing because they include species not native to the Nazca Desert. There are drawings of monkeys which live in the Amazon rainforest hundreds of kilometers away, and what appears to be a whale, despite the site being 50 kilometers from the ocean. Each figure is drawn with a single continuous line that never crosses itself, a technique that would require careful planning and possibly scaled models to execute properly. What baffles researchers most is the question of perspective and purpose. The Nazca people had no known means of flight, yet they created images that make sense only from hundreds of feet in the air. Some lines point to underground water sources, suggesting they might have been processional paths for water worship ceremonies. Others seem to track the movement of celestial bodies across the sky, perhaps serving as a guide for agricultural planning. Recent discoveries have only deepened the mystery rather than solving it. Using satellite imagery and artificial intelligence, researchers have identified over 140 previously unknown geoglyphs, including humanoid figures that predate the famous animal designs. Some of these newly discovered figures are located on hillsides, suggesting the Nazca lines might represent different phases of development with varying purposes. The construction method itself demonstrates remarkable organizational capability. Creating perfectly straight lines over such distances without aerial supervision would require sophisticated surveying techniques and coordinated labor from hundreds of workers. The Nazca managed this despite having no written language, no wheeled vehicles, and no large draft animals to help with the work. 5. The Voynich manuscript, the unbreakable code. Yale University's Beinecke Library houses what might be the world's most mysterious book, a 240-page medieval codex that has defied every attempt at translation for over a century. The Voynich manuscript, carbon dated to the early 15th century, is written in an unknown script depicting an unknown language, illustrated with bizarre drawings of unidentifiable plants, naked women bathing in green liquid, and astronomical diagrams that match no known cosmology. Named after Wilfrid Voynich, the book dealer who purchased it in 1912, the manuscript has attracted the attention of the world's best cryptographers, including codebreakers who cracked the Enigma machine during World War II. Despite using advanced computer analysis and pattern recognition software, no one has definitively deciphered a single word of its approximately 170,000 characters. The manuscript's illustrations are equally puzzling, divided into 6 distinct sections that seem to cover different topics. The botanical section shows 113 drawings of plants, but botanists can't identify any of them with known species. The astronomical section contains circular diagrams with suns, moons, and stars, along with naked female figures emerging from pipes and tubes. The biological section depicts more naked women bathing in pools connected by an elaborate network of pipes that seem to contain flowing liquids. Statistical analysis of the text reveals patterns consistent with natural language rather than random gibberish. The word lengths follow Zipf's law, a mathematical pattern found in all human languages. Letters appear in predictable clusters, suggesting genuine linguistic structure. Yet the script itself uses between 20 and 30 unique characters, too many for an alphabet but too few for a syllabic system like Chinese. Various theories have attempted to explain the manuscript's origin and purpose. Some researchers believe it's written in a constructed language, possibly created for occult or alchemical purposes. Others suggest it might be an elaborate cipher, encoding Latin or another known language through a complex substitution system. A few scholars have proposed it could be glossolalia, religious text written in a trance state, or even an elaborate medieval hoax designed to fool wealthy collectors. William Friedman, America's foremost cryptographer, spent decades trying to crack the manuscript's code. He eventually concluded it might be written in a synthetic language, created from scratch with its own grammar and vocabulary. This would make it one of the earliest known constructed languages, predating documented examples by centuries. 6. The Saqqara bird, ancient Egyptian aircraft. In 1898, excavators working in the Padi Iman tomb near Saqqara, Egypt, discovered a small wooden artifact that would later challenge our understanding of ancient Egyptian knowledge. Initially cataloged simply as a bird figurine and stored away with thousands of other artifacts, this object gained renewed attention in 1969 when Egyptian doctor and model plane enthusiast Khalil Masiha noticed something extraordinary about its design. The Saqqara bird, as it became known, dates to around 200 BC and measures about 15 centimeters in wingspan. Unlike typical Egyptian bird artifacts, which clearly represent known species like falcons or ibises, this object has features that seem specifically designed for aerodynamic efficiency. Its wings are straight and aerodynamically shaped. Its tail is vertical rather than horizontal, like a real bird's, and its proportions match those of a modern glider. Messiha built a scaled-up balsa wood replica and discovered that with a small stabilizing tailpiece, the design could actually fly. The model glided successfully when thrown, maintaining stable flight over considerable distances. What makes this discovery particularly intriguing is that it's not unique in Egyptian archaeology. Similar artifacts have been found at other sites, all sharing the same unusual combination of aerodynamic features. The ancient Egyptians were master engineers who understood principles of physics we're only beginning to appreciate. They could move massive stone blocks with precision, created elaborate hydraulic systems, and aligned their monuments with celestial bodies to extraordinary accuracy. Critics argue that the Saqqara bird is simply a stylized representation of a bird, possibly a weather vane or children's toy. 7. The Longyu Caves, China's impossible excavation. In 1992, a villager in China's Zhejiang province decided to drain what locals had always assumed were bottomless ponds. What emerged from the murky water stunned archaeologists worldwide, a network of massive artificial caverns carved from solid rock with a precision that defies explanation. The Longyu Caves represent one of the largest underground excavations in ancient history, yet no historical records mention their construction. 24 caves have been discovered so far, covering an area of over 30,000 square meters. The largest cavern measures 2,000 square meters and rises to a height of 30 meters, supported by evenly spaced pillars carved from the living rock. Every surface, including walls, ceilings, and pillars, is covered with parallel chisel marks so uniform they appear machine-made, creating a distinctive pattern that archaeologists have found nowhere else in China. The amount of rock removed to create these caves has been calculated at nearly 1 million cubic meters. Using the tools and methods available 2,000 years ago, when the caves are believed to have been created, this excavation would have required the continuous labor of 1,000 workers for 6 years. Yet there are no piles of excavated rock anywhere in the vicinity, no tools left behind, and no inscriptions indicating who built them or why. The engineering precision displayed in the caves suggests advanced planning and mathematical knowledge. The pillars are distributed using a complex pattern that provides maximum structural support while minimizing material use. The caves maintain consistent dimensions and angles throughout, with walls that deviate less than a degree from vertical despite being carved freehand. Some chambers are connected by narrow passages positioned to optimize acoustic properties, creating echo effects that seem deliberately designed. Each cave appears to have been excavated from the top down, a technique that would require extraordinary planning since mistakes couldn't be corrected once the ceiling was carved. The builders had to envision the entire three-dimensional space before beginning work, calculating load distributions and support requirements without modern engineering tools. They also needed to account for variations in rock density and underground water flow, which they managed with remarkable success. 8. The Stones of Ica, Peru's controversial library. In the 1960s, a Peruvian physician named Javier Cabrera began collecting unusual stones from farmers near the town of Ica. These andesite stones, ranging from pebbles to boulders, bore intricate engravings depicting scenes that challenged everything archaeologists thought they knew about pre-Columbian Peru. Today, over 15,000 of these stones have been cataloged, forming what some call an impossible library of ancient knowledge. The engravings show extraordinary scenes that shouldn't exist according to conventional history. There are detailed depictions of complex medical procedures, including brain surgery and cesarean sections. Other stones show humans interacting with dinosaurs, using telescopes to study comets, and examining what appear to be DNA helixes through magnifying devices. Maps carved on some stones seem to show continents with different coastlines, including land masses that no longer exist. Carbon dating of the stones themselves is impossible since stone doesn't contain organic material, but analysis of the patina covering the engravings suggests considerable age. The oxidation layer that naturally forms on exposed andesite takes centuries to develop, and many of the Ica stones show this patina uniformly covering both the stone surface and the carved grooves, indicating the engravings are genuinely old rather than recent forgeries. Dr. Cabrera believed the stones represented a library created by an advanced prehistoric civilization that possessed knowledge we've only recently rediscovered. He pointed to stones showing accurate depictions of extinct megafauna that lived in South America thousands of years ago. Animals that weren't scientifically described until the 19th and 20th centuries. Some engravings appear to show the reproductive cycle of certain dinosaurs that matches theories developed by paleontologists. The medical procedures depicted on the stones are particularly intriguing because they show specific anatomical details that would be difficult to imagine without genuine medical knowledge. Skeptics argue that the stones are modern forgeries created for the tourist trade, pointing to farmers who admitted carving similar stones for sale. However, supporters note that the sheer number of stones, the consistency of their artistic style, and the complexity of information they contain would make such a massive forgery operation nearly impossible to coordinate. Furthermore, similar engraved stones were documented by Spanish chroniclers in the 16th century. If you found these mysteries as captivating as we did, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into history's hidden secrets. Share your thoughts in the comments below about which discovery intrigued you most, and remember, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop seeking the truth that history tried to hide.